Okay, well, welcome back to Me and ADHD podcast. In today's episode, which is episode 2 or season 2, we speak to Nathan Vincent about ADHD and how it can affect our work. But more specifically, if I can get my words out, can we put a positive spin to our career choices with ADHD? So, firstly, welcome to the show, Nate. How you doing?
Thanks, Darren. Thanks for having me, mate. It's a pleasure being here.
It's good to have you here. At last, it's been a long time coming, and
it certainly has.
It doesn't help that I didn't have any internet for a while either, which is a bit of a pain. But but we're here now, which is good. So, just a little bit of background, I guess, for yourself. When did you get diagnosed?
So I'm just recently turned 45 on the 23rd of September. So I just recently had a birthday, but it would have been
birthday.
Thank you. I certainly feel old, I can tell you that now. It would have been the middle of 2020, so just as COVID was really starting to kick off. So, but prior to that, there was a diagnosis of bipolar 2.
Okay.
So which was random. So.
Have they gone back on that diagnosis, or is it they're saying it is actually both?
2020 sort of came about, sort of looking at life as you do, and realising like where am I? Why aren't things happening? Why I don't have a family? All that sort of stuff. Relationships were up and down, were going all over the place, and it just got to a point with why does this keep happening? So. Sort of prompted the chat with the doctor to say, look, let's look into this, let's see what's going on. And he said, yeah, right, no worries, let's find a psychiatrist. And at that point, it was like choose your own adventure because, you've sort of really got to know what you're looking for. And I didn't know what I was looking for. And funny enough, went to the psychiatrist, and he came back with, there was no mention of ADHD or anything like that. I think it was, I pretty much went in and said, I think I've got bipolar. And he said, yeah, no worries, you've got it, sort of thing. And a couple of psychologist appointments later on, and they sort of said, look, something's there. But I found that the medication that they were giving me, which I think was Seroquel, I can't think of the actual name, but found that many years, I mean, like yourself, I've listened to a few of your podcasts and probably a morph of nearly every single person that you've had within your, as guests, related in that sort of a sense that, I was tired, I was grumpy, I was forgetful, I was moody, and I just stopped taking the medication. And it wasn't until I met my current partner, working away, I'm a miner and in the training and development field. So prior to that, I was driving dump trucks. So A to B, mind-numbing, absolute employment at that point, and was just forgetful all the time, moody. What was it? Day shift, night shift, coming home, and then with it was like I just felt depressed all the time. So the misdiagnosis of depression, anxiety, you kind of come up with that. You make fun of yourself just to sort of hide away from the fact that you're really struggling. Yeah. And then you'd sort of find that some people you'd allow to make fun of you, but other people would just boil your blood. And that's when I sort of found I struggled quite a fair bit. And that was a revisit back to the psychiatrist to say, look, I've found all my primary school, elementary school sort of reports. All this here says ADHD. And we went through the tests, and funny enough, that was the diagnosis. So
it's strange how it can take a long while to get there, because like I say, sometimes they come up with other diagnoses beforehand, sometimes right ones, sometimes actually a lot of times I've spoken to people, it's been the wrong diagnosis before they actually eventually get to the right one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always knew something was wrong. Even as a kid, I always knew something was wrong. I think I've sort of mentioned before that, not on this, but my dad pulling me out when I was younger, and always used to ask why I used to do such silly things. And I couldn't come up with a reason for it. And then it almost was like, something makes me do this sort of thing. Like, I don't know what it is, but being a child of the 80s, they just whacked you into sport. It wasn't a second thought. I struggled. Like, it took me a long time to learn how to tie my shoelaces up. I struggled with at school. And not once did my parents ever think there's something wrong. So they just whacked me into sport and away I went. So
you said something a second ago about when your dad asked you, why do you do these things? And you're like, I don't know. That's, for me, in my life, I'm sure it's other people as well, and like yourself, that's the hardest thing. You don't know why this is going on. You don't know why you can't concentrate. You don't know why you're bouncing off the walls. You don't know why you feel this way or that way. You have to do this and you can't do that. There's no words for it, until you get the diagnosis, until you start looking at it and got that direction to, okay, what you need to kind of research, I guess. There's nothing, you can't explain it to people. Explaining RSD, I say that a lot about in my podcast, RSD, but explaining that to someone without knowing it's RSD and everything about it, you can't. It just sounds stupid. You can't. It's so yeah. Back in the day, parents, well, anyone really, didn't know much about it. It wasn't on anyone's radar. No. So it's not as if, it's easy to say, if I was diagnosed when I was a child, things would be different, but it wasn't a diagnosis. It wasn't an official diagnosis then.
No, well, I mean, even getting into high school, you never thought, I never did homework. I was forever at either basketball or football training after school. And when I say football, I mean Australian rules, not soccer. But yeah, it was like, I'd just come home, I'd go, but I'd never ever submit homework. I never did any school. I was always I fit the popular group, but then I was also kind of a recluse as well. Whereas I just sort of talked to everyone, and we'll get into that down the track. But yeah, no, you're right, and I think it was probably towards the end when I was finishing school that you really sort of paying attention that ADHD kids were the naughty kids, or the ones that couldn't sit still. And here I am moving around and Twitter and sort of stuff at the moment. So
yeah, times have changed, which is good. Needs to change quicker, but it's changing, which is nice. So how was your life in a nutshell? How was your life and I guess your career and all that prior to the diagnosis?
Career-wise, it took me a long time to sort of figure out my niche and what I wanted to do employment-wise. I struggled with trying to find employment. Tasmania, being originally from Tassie, I'm in Western Australia now, but there's not much in regards to work there. You're either a tradie. My whole family, majority, I've got three brothers, either went into a trade. My dad was a boilermaker welder and also a successful basketball coach. But we only had the options. I mean, they call Tasmania the apple isle for a reason. We sort of pretty much grow apples and fresh food, and all that sort of stuff. But to find work, to actually, it was call center sort of stuff, and
right.
Didn't interest me at all. I'd get really bored really quickly. I found that, typical Monday, I'd be sort of a bit of a partier. Mondays would always be sick days. Fridays would always be the day before the weekend. But yeah, it probably till about and the other thing too is, and God love my mum, she sort of also didn't really sort of put me out into the wild world, paid my bills for me and all that sort of stuff. I struggled with paying bills on time, struggled with paying anything on time, and I think it was about 25 before I sort of fell into employment services, which is basically welfare system helping people get into employment. And taken from my own experiences, it helped me be able to understand people to the struggles that they had with looking for work and thinking outside that box. I think if you can remember Will Smith's The Pursuit of Happiness and Leonardo DiCaprio, Catch Me If You Can. I had people watching these videos and saying, what's the common theme here in regards to looking for work? And found that I was really, really successful in doing all that sort of stuff, which led me to a move to Western Australia to work with the Indigenous community over here. And again, coming from long-term unemployed, identifying as Tasmanian Aboriginal, which, when you think Aboriginal in Australia, you think, dark-skinned. Tasmania, we don't have that, unfortunately, due to many sort of convicts from around your way, I think, coming down. So basically it got to that, worked with, and I can't put it, as Nate says in one of your previous episodes, being able to figure out how you get to these points or have these brain codes that you can't explain. I ended up getting into mining and helping a lot of Indigenous people get into, really, really, really high paying jobs from nothing. And
that's good.
Very successful. Yeah, so it's sort of doing that, but then all of a sudden realising, shit, these guys are earning 4 times the amount of money that I'm earning now. I might as well get into it too. So that's where it led into that, and led into dump truck driving. So, and yeah, I mean, I sort of accepted the fact that it was A to B, A to B, A to B every day, but I ended up getting the nickname Dory because I just couldn't concentrate. It wasn't exciting enough.
Yeah.
Which led me to, funny enough, having a bit of a training background led me to becoming a trainer. So that's where it's led me, and then, funny enough, I think the real turning point was in 21. COVID was really in its sort of peak, and my partner was pregnant, and unfortunately we lost the baby. And within that, pretty hard. But I mean, this is one of the things that really sparked the ADHD side of things, is that the emotional irregularity and what to say in those sort of situations. So rather than be sympathetic to the fact that, my partner's, even when she told me she was pregnant, it was just like, oh, you're this age. My first response was, what about your health? I work away, instead of going, yes, I'm going to be a dad, sort of thing. And it took probably 3 or 4 days to filter, to realise that I was going to be a dad. And then, unfortunately, of all the days, Father's Day, she unfortunately had a miscarriage. And pretty tough stuff. But again, emotional irregularity, I didn't know how to deal with that. And then unfortunately lost my nan 2 weeks later. And there was a bit of family rift in that sort of aspect of it all. And then, I lost my dad 2 weeks after that. So, and he was living in the Philippines at the time. So pretty full on stuff. And for someone that sort of struggles with emotions at the end of the day, it was like a massive emotion bomb.
No, absolutely.
So I think, who did you have there? I think, is it Josh that you had? He, just the emotional side, it was almost a breakdown. And to be honest with you, I think that breakdown carried on until, so we're looking at 21, probably to the middle of last year, start of this year, without even really, so when the diagnosis came about, it was like, here's your magic pill, on your way. And no way to deal with it, no way to, it was confusing. And then I think it takes for you to hit that point of you've lost everything, or you're losing everything, or something's got to change, is when you really start looking for those answers. And that's where this year's been the year.
Which is good. Which is good, because that's all we really want, is the answers. We don't need the diagnosis as such. It's we get the diagnosis to get the answers, but it doesn't matter what the diagnosis is, as long as it's the correct diagnosis. Therefore, we can look in the right direction and get the answers and get the help, get the support, and know what's going on. I mean,
as I said, there's been, my partner, we've had our ups and downs over the last 4 years, but I mean, it's patience of a saint. But it's been we've had a couple of breakups where it's been lengthy, and I've had to have a look in the mirror, and I've gone down the avenues of the internet fad of life coaches and all this sort of stuff, and they're great. But you can't help but think that there's a bit of a monetary angle and a bit of a deceptive angle on a lot of these people as well. So first one was great. too expensive to sort of continue on with, but did sort of open my eyes to motivational stuff, like getting onto people like Tim Fletcher, who copes with childhood trauma,
Yeah.
traumas in general, and Eddie Pinaro I found as a bit of a motivator when if I ever go into a bit of a where I need sort of take time out, and Dave Goggins, all these sorts of people that have overcome the odds, that sort of get you back on track. I've always heard the term of it's always good to listen to someone else's drama than it is your own. So, but the scary point was this year, unfortunately, I had another split with my partner, and it got to that crossroad where it was like, what is this thing? What's it doing? Why do I keep doing these sorts of things? Is it something that I can blame, or is it me that's just not dealing with it? So I went down that path. I signed up with a life coach. It was probably the biggest lesson I've ever made in regards to trusting the fact that someone's going, I've got ADHD and I can fix you. Like a typical sort of infomercial person.
Yeah.
And I went down that route, and before you knew it, we were talking about aliens, and it's like, what am I doing, sort of thing. And and then that's where social media, and don't get me wrong, I love social media. I mean, we wouldn't have met if it wasn't for social media, but I hated TikTok. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. But when I signed up for this life coaching thing, it was like, you know what, I'm going to document this, and I want to look back in a year and see what's changed. And the changes happened almost immediately. And the more I sort of looked into it, it was like, whoa. And then the community came about. So, I mean, I've mentioned to you in the past, Head Nooks. I'd love to know the man's name, his real name, but my ADHD brain just gets there and it's like, oh, I love what he's saying. And it's like, oh, that's right, I forgot to ask him his name. Sort of thing. But just listening to everyone and their experiences, I think TikTok should be called neurodivergent talk.
I hear you, because I'm not. I did social media. I mean, I did the Facebook thing because family, friends, and all that, as you do back in the day. And then I started I do wildlife photography, so I started sharing that on social media. But that was it. Not really talking to anyone or anything like that. So, and I sure as hell was not going to actually go and Google my symptoms and things like that. Don't go to Dr. Google, as they always say. That's not what you do. And a lot of time people on social media are not the people I want to talk to, kind of thing. And
no, there's a lot of people out there that are prepared to take a buck from you. I can tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. But realizing, like you say, you get diagnosed, and then bye. And then it's like, okay, and you don't really get told anything about it. You don't get told about all the other comorbidities. It's like this is your diagnosis, and this is why you've got this diagnosis. Okay, see you later. So you have to go do the research, and there only is one place to go and do the research. On social media. Go and find it all out, and it's all there. And weirdly enough, that's a lot of information there. There's a lot of good information. I mean, there's some dodgy information as well, but there's a lot of good information and a lot of really good, I guess, people who are, being authentic and being, telling it how it is. And that's nice, because that's our education,
It is, yeah. I mean, and the unfortunate thing for when I did start on May the 1st this year was going through like a breakup, and like at that point, like I didn't know where I was going in life in regards to that point, and was like, I've got a great job, I just can't get the emotional side of things together. But once that sort of started rolling off, I was forever apologising, trying not to look for attention. But now I look at it, it was kind of a cry for help. And funny enough, out of nowhere, I ended up like Western Australia, Tasmania, I think, like the other side of the country sort of thing. People started, like from Tasmania, actually started messaging me, and because originally it was Nate's Real Talk, and now it's like ADHD Distracted, and that's the impulsive side of it. It's like, oh, I've got to have something sort of snazzy and catchy, and but then I had people from back home in Tasmania that I hadn't spoken to in nearly 20 years turn around and go, is that you? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And they're like, oh my God, like I wouldn't have picked it. And funny enough, like I had people saying that their daughters, their sons were all relatable now because they knew me and they knew who I was in high school and they knew who I was. And it was like, you've got it. Makes me, the way I talk about things, it makes them understand. And it was like, hang on, I might be onto something here.
Yeah.
And that's where I started looking into it. And like, even I was still doing the life coaching stuff, but the fella started sort of trying to sell me off everything. Everything sort of equaled around the $12,000 mark. I think it was like, do you want a hairbrush? It's $12,000. Holiday to Bali, $12,000, and I was like, oh, surely. But it was like, yeah, we're going to restructure your TikTok page. We're going to do this and that. But everyone just kept saying the way that I was talking about it was real, and I sort of didn't hold back. And even though work was struggling, everything was going on, I ended up taking a trip back to Tasmania, back to the roots that I hadn't been home for nearly 8 years, so the first time to see family, and so excited driving up the driveway and was filming the whole thing that next thing you know, TikTok have booted me and deleted my account. And here I was absolutely devastated that I'd lost 4,000 followers. And it was like, I had a community here and I'm going to have to start again. And turned it into hang on a minute. Let's use this superpower and see exactly what we can do here. And within a couple of weeks, I think it was up to about 16,000 followers, which what it wasn't what it was really about. It was, again, it's a journey, like you say in your episodes, that this all started as a therapy session for you. And,
Yeah.
And that's where it's gone to, and now I'm finding people come to me quite a fair bit and go, how do you deal with this, all that sort of stuff. And it's nice to know that for someone that doesn't know much about it, like, it's relatable. So, and then I learn new things as well.
No, absolutely. And it's nice that people do, like say, relate, and people want to ask you questions, and they do talk about it, and you talking about it, and other people putting, posting stuff up helps other people, to understand it's okay to talk about things. It's okay to be there. It's okay to feel these things. And that's a massive thing. That's a huge thing, because we don't, even as guys, we generally don't, we're not open that much. When I before my diagnosis, I just had depression and anxiety. That was my previous diagnosis. But I didn't have the words to speak about it. I didn't tell anyone. My wife knew, but my family didn't. I just, not that I was trying to keep it from them, but the words weren't there. And it's, it was, depression, and you don't want to talk about that, and all this stigma around the stuff. But I found when I got the correct information and the correct diagnosis, everything changed. Everything changed. It made a massive difference. I know I can't shut up about it. So, I'll talk to anyone about it.
That's like a doctor now. It's like, hi, I'm Nathan, ADHD. Sort of thing. But I mean, that's the, like, finding out when you've got it, it's like a really big relief. But then they don't prepare you for what's next. And this is what I'm finding with us late diagnosis people is that it's exciting to find out that there's an answer.
Yeah.
But then there comes was that me or was that ADHD? And like, I've got a cousin that's recently just found out as well, and he's had some addiction problems and all that sort of stuff. And now that he's found out, it's like, his whole world. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. Like, it's all fun, because the next thing you know, like, everything, as you say, becomes ADHD, and you end up it becomes you. You don't become it, sort of like, you become it more than it becomes you, sort of thing. It takes over, and everything sort of becomes an excuse, or hang on, did I do that because of ADHD? And you tend to lose your way, I think, a lot with those answers afterwards. So, like, I've heard it many times on some of your episodes. It's like, it's kind of like, do you wish you knew? Like, because prior to COVID, everyone had a coping mechanism, and everyone was able to cope. And then we're all told, oh, you naughty kids, you could get the spicy flu. you're grounded, and then we lose that ability to be able to go to A to B. And so anxiety kicks in, and then our brains get rewired into going back out into the world when we're allowed to come back outside and play. And look out, now we've got an epidemic of people with neurodivergent problems because it's now come to the forefront. So that's the way I've looked at it, and I think that's what a lot of people have sort of said to me is that once they got out into the real world again, it was like, oh god. And we're like, my partner at the moment, she works from home a couple of days a week, and I think they're trying to push laws to be able to. You've got to go back to the office full time, and there you go. Anxiety kicks in for a lot of people because they're just so used to a new process. So finding out ADHD, great. But then when all of a sudden, things settle down and the pill's doing what it's doing for the first month, and then after that, all of a sudden, you find yourself running down the street naked. Sort of thing. It's like, this pill doesn't work anymore. I've got to do something else. So I'm not saying I didn't do that, but yeah.
I no, I don't believe you. So
look, the people that do know, as I said, when I went back home to Tasmania and started telling people, look, it turns out I've got ADHD, and they're like, no crap. There was something, I was always the class idiot. But yeah, or if I lost interest, that was it. Like, I could switch off emotions like you wouldn't believe. And it was like, people were like, what? How does that not affect you? And it's like,
yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those things. So it's been a tough learning journey. But this year alone, as I said, it's been the light that's come on, and it's led me down to that path of all these experiences in life. They say God doesn't give you, and I'm not a Christian by any means, but God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. And I think just generally, I've been one of those people that have. I've had a fair bit happen in life, and I've always sort of landed on my feet. So it's, it makes sense to maybe become that voice for people with ADHD or neurodivergent backgrounds, because I'm not afraid to speak, as you can probably see. And I've always sort of been one for the little guy at the end of the day too. So my background with working with Indigenous people and all that sort of stuff, walking into big business, stigmas behind Indigenous people, they don't want to work, they don't want to do this, and then to walk in and have them say such racist things, and then turn around and go, hang on a second, I'm Aboriginal, and it's like, what? You're what? Like, sort of thing. It's like, yeah, we don't all fit the same basket, which now again comes into the neurodivergent side of things. And you're almost like Batman, as I was saying before, like Bruce Wayne 1 minute, Batman the next, sticking up for everyone. So
someone's got to do it.
Down to, you go.
I say, yes, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to stick up for the little people. Someone's got to talk. Someone's got to be that voice.
It is. I mean, I see, as I said, TikTok's been that place, but it just seems to me, and not just for ADHD, but like you were saying before, in regards to men's mental health, and all these years of you've got to be a man, and now we're told to speak up, and it's like, if you do speak up, the possibility of you saying the wrong thing is 90%, and so it puts you back in that box of being scared to be able to speak up, and it's a horrible time, I guess. And I guess all these years that we've had it so good, all of a sudden now it's sort of flipped, and it's a sad time. Like, I've gone and joined a men's group. I go and sit with a few blokes every couple of weeks, and we sort of sit there and talk about problems and all that sort of stuff. And almost 90% of them have all said, I think I've got ADHD, and it's like, well, we can spot our own. And that's where I've gone into the counselling side. Like, I've got my life coaching, I've got the neurodivergent specialty all behind it, and now it's the diploma of counselling, which I'm now going into. So working in a mine, training and all that sort of stuff, majority of the guys there, they're not there for school, they're there for work, but all of them come to me and say, mate, the way you explain things, I don't get it. Like, you hit the point, you're funny, you make it enjoyable, you keep it, and like it's quick. It's not one of these brain draining whole day events sort of thing. I'll sort of make it a bit of a show, and it's from there on in. It's just that passion to be able to get back in and stick up for the little fella, and help people find that diagnosis. I mean, I made a video yesterday on TikTok sort of saying if you do find out, I mean, there's no harm in finding out. And I think I just got sick to death of looking at TikTok and all these social media things, and everything ADHD related was comedy related.
Yeah.
And I'm all for funny. But it gives us a stigma that we're a bit silly and a bit stupid. And funny enough, like when I first got diagnosed, it was, look, you know, I've got this, can you do this? And I had some things in play. They didn't know what to do, and they were just like, have you had your meds today? And then it just became an ongoing joke, which RSD-wise, I started feeling, oh no, like less than, second-class citizen sort of stuff. So, yeah, I'm very wary of that in the role that I'm in at work now. Yeah. And, it's just one of those things.
It is hard with social media. You've got a lot of stuff on there, like say, you know, it's some of the stuff is absolutely hilarious, but it comes a point you need to have, you know, sort of evidence-based information out there. If we want people to understand and you want people to know, you need to get the facts out. You know, it should be more facts and more serious talk as opposed to the comedy aspect of it, because there's a lot of struggling people out there. You know, the struggle is huge. So you've got to have the right information out there and not just joke about it, because for most people with ADHD, it's not fun.
No, and I mean, funny enough, like, it must have been not long after May this year, I went to a stand-up routine called Maybe He's Born With It, Maybe It's ADHD. And I was expecting a laugh, but I ended up finding I sat there the whole time. Like, for everyone that didn't have ADHD, it was a laugh. But for me, it was the most confronting thing I'd ever, was like, oh, geez, like, it was funny. But the ending part was like, if you ever encounter someone with ADHD, we're the most passionate, loving sort of people. We might not seem like we might have resting bitch face constantly, sort of thing. Or, but it hit home. It really hit home, and you know, it made me even think. It was like with my TikTok stuff, I was like, do I make funny material? Do I like to get a bigger audience? Do I? But again, as I said, it's the real stuff that makes you sort of go, whoa, like. And I think we can all, once we hear it, we all relate. Like the freeze for me was one of the biggest things that that moment of being shocked or surprised or sort of takes me back. I made a joke about it the other day about Christmas time and, you know, getting the good old pair of jocks or socks and having to act all surprised. Oh, I need these sort of thing at Christmas. and now... And now I'm just so wary that, you know, when people give me gifts, it's almost an embarrassment. And because it's like, oh, look out, the focus is on me. But then everyone's perception of me is that, oh, he loves the attention, loves it. But it's like, I actually don't. So it's just, But then, like, as you were saying before, it's ADHD. What is it now? What is it? Because there's so many forms of it. And it's not all painted with the same brush.
No, absolutely. It is a spectrum. It is on a spectrum. Yeah. There's lots of things. I mean, there's as in we're sitting here talking to each other. There are going to be things that are very relatable, and we can talk about. We're going to go, yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be other things that you will talk about. I'm like, I haven't got a clue because I don't go through that. You know. Yeah. And you know, I've said in my last podcast that I have no idea about being hyperactive physically. You know, I do little things. I'm playing with this as I'm talking, and I'll wag my foot and a couple of little swings in my chair. I think that's fine, but I'm not bouncing off the walls. I don't talk about that.
My partner laughs at me when she sees my videos because she can hear this, and it's me tapping my leg. That's my stimming, sort of. I'm playing with my nose or pushing my glasses. That's purposely why I haven't worn glasses. It's not because I'm forever pushing them up, no matter what. So, but it's a scary thing. Like even at work recently, you know, I was having some issues there with, I think it was more my perception of everything, like with the RSD stuff, and it was having a chat to like a mentor that I have at work, and it was like, you know, you're not like the other ADHD kids. Like you seem to be going off the rails a bit, and it's like that's because I'm hyperactive, impulsive. These ones are introverted or autistic ADHD sort of stuff, and then you'll have the people that have had it their entire lives that are like, but how did you not know? And it's like, I did, but a doctor would never tell me. Like, funny enough, I went to my doctor yesterday, and I've switched between doctors over the last couple of years, and gone back to the diagnosing doctor that we went to the psychiatrist, and he's actually asked me the question. So, how do you have ADHD? And it was just like, I don't know how to have an answer for that. Like, waking up in the middle of the night and being able to solve the world's problems and not be able to sleep, and then all of a sudden fall asleep with 5 minutes before my alarm goes off, and then go, what did I just think about? Sort of thing. And, sports for me are my major hyper focus, and or anything interesting to me. I love music. I'm sort of annoyed Oasis is back together and they're not coming to Perth, they're going to the eastern states, but all that sort of stuff, anything interesting. And these are the things that sort of triggered me a few years ago. I forgot to mention my nephew's got ADHD, and been in past relationships with kids. Well, my partner's had kids, that sounds a bit off. Where they've had ADHD or dyspraxia or something like that, and not understanding it, but then figuring out, like, if someone had have given me, like, say, a football card or a basketball card with stats or numbers or anything like that when I was younger, I could have done maths. Yeah. I could have done it because I was interested in, like, what's a goal? It's 6 points. That's easy for me to figure out. But the schooling system certainly does. I mean, I'm hoping it's improved. It's not like I don't go to primary school or high school these days, but I'd hope that they'd be concentrating a lot more on that.
Not over here.
No, I think it's pretty much across. Yeah, it's across the world. It's like, it's pretty much the norm and on your way sort of thing. But and they're the things that sort of worry me in regards to our next generation and all that sort of stuff. Is that we have all these programs now, and funny enough, I think when I hit my lowest point with this this breakup in May, or in earlier than May, I think it was, I reached out to our non-for-profit specialist ADHD provider, and gave them all my details, told them I really needed some help, I really needed this and that, and it took them they forgot about me. So I don't know whether they're just really good at ADHD and just sort of concentrating and forgetting, but that was an eye-opener for me. And trying to find specialist services here in Perth in particular, I mean, there probably are, but it's like pulling a rabbit from a hat. You've got to really know what you're looking for, and it's trial and error.
Absolutely.
And it's scary because, as we know, the moment we start feeling like idiots, we don't bother anymore. We tend to go back into our corner until the next flare up, and who knows where that's going to leave us. And that's, with the court systems, all this sort of stuff these days. And this is where, I'd like to think that I could probably go down these avenues, is that, understanding, and it's not an excuse to do bad things, but it's certainly a path to be able to push people down and say, well, look, here's your option now. And this is one of the things that Tim Fletcher, I've heard him say in his things, is that as kids, childhood trauma, we're supposed to be in safe places, but we don't have those supporting, areas for us. But as adults, those childhood traumas, we now have the tools to be able to go to a doctor and say, I'm not feeling it. I need something. I need to push for this.
Yeah.
And as you were saying before, it's for a bloke to do that, it's twice as hard, let alone being neurodivergent, because we're supposed to be tough at the end of the day. So
it's it is. It's, I mean, there's a lot of things just stacked up against people with with neurodivergent conditions, especially, like, if you think about children or someone, an adult now who's been diagnosed when they were a child, luckily, I guess their experience is going to be very different to, I am guessing at this, to ours, because we've had a lot of time of not knowing anything and having that labeled by everyone as being stupid, naughty, pointless, worthless, should try harder, and all the rest, where they may not have by as many people because they've got the diagnosis, and certain people have been instructed this is this and this, and they may be on medication, which has helped right from the very beginning. So it's there's just so much.
It's it's almost like the stigma of having to have celebrities have this sort of stuff and really speak out about it for it to be noticed. I mean, I know of many, but again, it's still, I can't help but feel that ADHD, was it borderline personality disorder that, go hand in hand, that they're going to change these names eventually to either neurodivergent 1, neurodivergent 2, neurodivergent, like, just put it under that neurodivergent banner, because it seems to be like as you step on a balloon and it pops up somewhere, so you feel you tackled it, and then all of a sudden it just pops up in a different way. So
yeah, no
yeah,
problem. I mean, I can see that. I mean, with autism, it happened with autism. That's under one sort of banner now, rather than sort of separated. And then, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it with ADHD. Well, they started to, because this ADD was on its own.
yeah. And
But
now I think it's AUDHD, and like it's like we're
that's
playing
different.
sort
But
of
yeah, so there's a lot
mental
of
health
things.
bingo.
Yes. But I mean, with everything that's gone on, I mean, there's a lot of negativity. Not just out there, but when you're going through it, it's it is hard. And also, you've had your struggles and things like that, and but things are changing at the moment with with your sort of career and the life coaching.
Yeah.
What do you think it's the actual diagnosis that's pushed you into that direction and made you kind of like focus on that, or do you think it's more of the people that you've been speaking to, be on social media and all that has driven you to go down that line?
I loved being an employment consultant. I loved working with people that were like, cycles of poverty or circles of poverty, breaking those cycles. To me, money can't, you just can't put money on that. And to be able to see that you've, basically broken that poverty cycle to, maybe the next generation is going to prosper. They're going to see working families or the misunderstanding and all that sort of stuff. But I got into mining like blatantly because at the time I was married, and it was like, you want a family, build me a house. And yeah, that was pretty intense. And then having to work away. So working away 1 week on, 2 weeks off, 4 weeks away, 1 week off, all that sort of stuff. Like, that's hard enough in its own right, and being isolated, let alone knowing that you've got a neuro condition, or you're isolated, and if something happens at home, there's nothing you can do. There's absolutely no. And so that fear of something always happening is always a scary thing. But I think, like, I have been looking for avenues out of mining, because Western Australia, like, we've got a massive employment base where it comes to fly in, fly out work in mining. And the mental health aspect, you hear about people, taking their lives and all that sort of stuff, because it's hard. It's working away. You're missing birthdays. You're missing, like, holidays. You're missing your kids grow up. I mean, I haven't got any kids, but my partner's got her kids, and they're great, and I've had a lot to do with them in the last few years. We've had our ups and downs with the relationships and stuff, but we've got good relationships, and I like to think that I'm sort of a role model in that sense. But I think that's the thing. I see such a big gap, and I'm probably getting in trouble for saying this, but you go to school all these years to become a doctor. You go to become a counsellor, and I think that's the difference between becoming a counsellor with a neurodivergent condition, is that you have an understanding. You're able. I don't know how, without, because that's what we do best. We relate everything to how we deal with things.
Yeah.
Is like being able to take that step back and be able to give people the steps to be able to overcome these issues. But again, to a neurotypical or to your typical bookworm that says, look, my book says your brain's not working properly. And the classic scenario of, if I've got a broken arm, you can see it, but your brain is like, you look all right, what's going on, sort of thing. So I think that's one of our superpowers, and I hate saying that, is that we have this ability and this vibe to be able to pick up when people just aren't right. And that's, I've been in many situations, especially in mining, where I've spotted people that are walking around smiling and that, but being like, they go around the corner and you can see something's not right at home, or all that sort of stuff. And funny enough, like even with myself, TikTok for me, watching my videos back after I've done them, is not like I've done that. It's like I'm talking to someone else. Someone else is talking to me, and that's where my poor mum, I would ring her constantly and be like, "Why she left me, or why am I doing this wrong?" And I would sit and I would rant for hours. And in the end, she turned around and said, "Nathan, you've got the answer in your head, but you're just waiting for me to say it." And that would all of a sudden light bulb moment go, "Yeah, you're right," sort of thing. And I think that's, as I said, you get to these counselling things. I'd like to think that I'd be one of those people that would be able to pick it up pretty quickly and be able to find that, hang on a second, half an hour's up, let's talk in 3 weeks, when you've opened Pandora's box, and before you know it, they've come back with a shaved head or a mohawk, or, gotten 3 people pregnant or something like, and like, this is where the system sort of fails, is that, we put time limits on these sorts of things. And I've got some great coaches out there that I've been working with and talking to, and thanks to TikTok, inboxing and all that sort of stuff, that these people don't put time limits on it. Because I think, again, neurodivergent, right? You put a time limit on it, all the good stuff comes out in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's interesting when you speak about the mind and the, be it psychology or psychologist or life coaching or therapy. I think there's a missing area of the market, I should say. But what am I trying to explain? We need more people, if they're going to help us with our minds, to be neurodivergent as well. Because even still with that, you still need to get the right people. Like for me, as a life coach right now or a therapist right now, and you're having real big issues with your real bad impulsivity, or your hyperactiveness, it's just like driving everybody wild. I can't relate to that, so I'm not going to be the therapist for you. And I know that. I could read a book about it and all the rest, but I know that. But we want to talk about focus. We want to talk about being overwhelmed. We want to talk about RSD. I am the person for you. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
But I can't, as a therapist or a life coach or anyone who, if I'm going to try and help you, and I'm neurotypical, for me to say, things like, okay, what we want to try and do is calm your mind. Really?
Yeah, cringe.
Okay.
Yeah, I know exactly what you say. I mean, I used to have that problem as an employment consultant when I used to have single parents come in and tell me all their problems about, having kids and not being able to work. And I didn't relate to it. So I put them onto people that did have, consultants that did have those problems. So again, as I say, I don't think that there's a specialised market out there. I believe that the place that I did try to call and that they did finally get back to me, they are the right people, but I just don't think they get the right support, and they're a not-for-profit, so they rely on, it's not a government-funded thing. And until we have those sorts of things, but it doesn't tailor for ADHD. As I said, our NDIS system basically says that ADHD is it's something that goes away, and it's like, where are you getting this information from? And unless you've got anxiety, depression, RSD, anything, autism, anything that has to couple with something to be able to even have a look in with our system here. And it's hard enough getting into a psychiatrist here. I guess it's the same over there. It's expensive here. It's very, very expensive here to get a diagnosis. To find a psychiatrist is very hard to do it, and half the time it's like, why do you think you got ADHD? It's a fad. And that, I think we all hear that, and I mean, it's just as bad as hearing everyone say, I've got a little bit of ADHD, and it's like, well, if you do, go and look into it, sort of thing. Because I mean, as I say, the people I encounter certainly have, they've got something. I call it the spicy. And my partner, her brother, has it as well, and and we believe that she may even have something along the same lines. But it's the hassle of having to go, and I guess as I was saying before, what happens if she does have it? Is she going to have a freak out about it, sort of thing? Like, should it not be comforting that you've got a partner with it? But then that also could be Pandora's box as well, because then you're dealing with someone that could very well be finding out, who am I? So, and that's the scary part of ADHD, especially a late diagnosis. I mean, I've always said, if I had cancer, do I want to know? And unfortunately, I've lost family members that have just instantly, within months, have passed after a diagnosis. And knock on wood, I don't have that sort of scenario. But again, it's like, what do you want to know? And but to me, it's like, I'm one of those ones that once I find out, I'm an information junkie. I want to know everything about it. I want to be 2 steps ahead of it. I go to work and it's like, before I even have a meeting, it's like, just remember, either I'm on my medication or I'm not on my medication. Just remember, I might get a bit frazzled here. I might need to walk out. And if I do, I'm forever apologising, because I'll just walk off. And it's more of a fear of screaming at them and then having to come back and sort of, and that's scary. I think that's the scariest thing of ADHD, is that response, is that if you recognise something's coming and you can feel that dark stranger running down the hallway of your head, and it's like, I'm getting out of here before this gets, I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. I'd rather do that and be rude than...
No, absolutely. And that comes down with... from on the research and everything like that, the knowledge, you've got answers, you've got knowledge, now. Beforehand you didn't, so maybe you wouldn't have taken that action, you know what I mean? But now it's like, okay, this is happening, this is what I need to do now to make sure that everyone's okay, I'm okay, and then in 10 minutes time I can come back and we can complete it, rather than having a talk with the bosses about my behavior in front of everybody else because I've just exploded. But then
it's scary. It's scary. I've got a housemate at the moment who's an Australian champion BMX rider, and just been to the World Championships. Just recently won our state title, off to the Nationals again next week. But he's been crippled with anxiety the last few, and this guy is as tough as nails in the brain, and has just been broken, and he just can't explain it, and the system just doesn't look after him. And all these mining companies and all the big thing about psychosocial and speak up, all this sort of stuff. The moment you speak up, it's like, oh, we don't have an answer for that. We'll just put you in a box in the corner and leave you there for a little bit. So it's really hard to watch. And like I say, advocacy and specialised groups, and like you say, you're introverted, whereas I'm extroverted, impulsive. These specialties, and not only, you've got the 3 types, you've got the 5, like the Ring of Fire and all these new, choose your own adventure things. It's hard to explain to an employer, because they get there and to go, what, am I hiring a nutcase, or am I hiring possibly the best worker I could ever have? So that's the whole point. It's like, if I can get into the counselling side of things, my big thing is to be able to be an advocate for business, to be able to go and educate. There's enough out there, I mean, without sort of taking the glory away from, the gender wars at the moment in regards to what people they want to change. I think we're sort of going down that path with neurodivergent stuff, and it's going to take a little bit of time, because at the end of the day, ignorance is, whatever, everyone's got ADHD, and it's like, well, spend a day in my brain, let's see where you end up, sort of thing. So
I think with like I say the gender wars and everything that goes, any sort of movement, any sort of thing that comes to the top of everyone's mind in society, be it racism, sexism, religion, whatever it is, when there's a push forward with trying to show something and to educate people, there's always going to be pushback. But I think with we're having a better understanding on how many people are neurodivergent, and we have a better understanding on what the different types of neurodivergent conditions are, and what these people struggle with. so there's a massive gap in the market for people to go and specialize in that area. Like I say, with
But
the
you've
life
got to be a
coaching and
really
that.
good people person. You've got to be a really good people person. I mean, and that's where I looked into this sort of stuff. It was like, do I start a podcast? Do I, what do I do? Do I keep? But even with TikTok, it's gone to a point. I wouldn't say it's burnout, but it's kind of like, am I flooding it too much now? Am I becoming like what's the word? These people that sort of get up in front of churches in America and all that sort of stuff, and trying to get a flop and all that sort of stuff. But that's not what it's about. Like, to me, it was my therapy thing, and I've sort of dropped off, and I sort of come back on every now and then and say, "G'day, I'm still alive," and all that sort of stuff. But even that's what I think I found it really frustrating, is all these new rules with TikTok. Is that, you can say bloody, and before you know it, in Australia, bloody is like we've got a different slang and all that sort of, but the algorithm, it recognizes it as a negative thing, and before you know it, you're getting a warning, and then you're getting kicked off, and then you've lost your community, and it's social media. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we develop our own neurodivergent TikTok? Like, do we? But then that's where the crazies really come into it. So, yeah, I mean, I've been on many things where I've tried to look for answers in the past, and I've found that most of these forums will be people that think they have it and they don't, and you're sort of sitting there going, "You've just wasted." And that's one thing that I find with my ADHD is that I can't, like, I'm allergic to. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to, because I'm allergic to idiots. I don't know, like, or slow. I feel like I'm talking a different language, and the moment I start to feel like I'm talking to different old people, like, what do you mean? And it's like,
yeah,
I'm out.
yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's.
yeah.
I think like I say, we've got a long way to go, but I think there's. It's going there, and the next generation, Touchwood, are going to be the people that are going to benefit, because I think it's going there fairly quickly now, as opposed to a lot of things that have taken really a long time to build up and make progress. But I think with people who are diagnosed ADHD, be it early in life or late in life, there's a lot of positive things that can come out of it. I mean, I don't think there's many people going to say, "Yeah, I love my ADHD. I love it. I want to keep it. I'm never going to take meds because I love how I feel 100% of the time." That ain't going to happen. If it does,
No,
and if you do, you probably haven't got ADHD. But
yeah, well, that's it. We just want to be normal at the end of the day. That's the thing. We're a circle in a square hole sort of thing, and it's hard to explain that to people that I just work like it's a fork road. You might be going down one road, but for me, it's like, but what if I do that? But what if I do that? But what if I do that? And before you know it, I'm stuck. So yeah, but I mean, as I said, the last 6 months have been awesome for me. I've been able to, find ways, look into sort of literature and all that sort of stuff, be able to study it from the other side, and that's where I think that's where I'm hoping to make that difference at the end of the day. So
I think you will, and you are doing it with your TikTok as well. I think we've all got our parts to play, and I do think people with ADHD. I want people to talk about it. I want people to be comfortable enough to talk about their ADHD, because I think that's one of the things that's going to make the biggest difference. Don't talk about ADHD as a whole, because there is of ADHD that you're not going to know about. So don't.
Oh yeah, I've learned so much this year. I knew nothing about stimming. Was like, what are you talking about?
So, but do you research, learn about your own ADHD. I'm still learning about mine and trying to work out what fits in and what is what, and I won't talk about it until I've done the research, and I've really had I've researched my arse off trying to work out, do I verbally stim or do I not? And it took me a long while to get there that I do, and to work out what are my verbal stims. I know I stim with my fingers and my toes and everything else, but verbally I wasn't quite sure. But I had to do the research first. I'm not going to talk about, my verbal stimming until I am positive, that it is.
One of the things, and I know my partner's going to laugh if she ever sees this, but is that we love karaoke. So I hate to say it, that rock star moment, you get on that microphone, and funny enough, I sing Robbie Williams of all stuff. I forget who I am. I forget where I'm at. Like, and the people that are like, I'm actually Robbie Williams in that moment. And then all of a sudden, when it's all done, it's like the dopamine level just comes down, and it's like, what just happened? Sort of, it's like a time like blackness as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are the sorts of things that now I'm sort of really wary of. That, you know, have fun with it, but also remember where you are. And it's scary. Like, once, you know, it's trial and error. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes with, as long as no one gets hurt, or that's the thing. And you know, unfortunately, you know, feelings are a part of being hurt these days. And I know myself, I've hurt many people in my past in regards to it. But now, I think once they figure out that I've got this, and I'm really trying to make a difference in regards to it, and it explains who I am, especially going back home to, you know, small town itis, and love my hometown, but it was like, it's like the South Park. It was like, yeah, it was like, I've gone back with a blonde hair and a neck tattoo and all this, and it's like, who are you? And it's like, oh, yeah, no, sort of thing. And it's like, you're different. What do you? Can't be different. But that's the thing. It's like breaking the mold. And yeah, as I said, it's people like us, and you know, I certainly hope you do your head knocks on. I've said to him a few times, he needs to have a chat to you like that.
Yeah, I would like to.
For me, like, yeah,
I like his.
I see of his.
It's good, a lot of good content, and I like how he's. I'm jealous of how he can just talk. I'm jealous of how you can just talk. I'm not a talker. Yeah. I'm generally slow, which is really annoying for most ADHDers. I understand that that I can be slow because once you know, I can speed up every now and again, but I can be slow because I'm struggling with the words. You know, so when someone's talking slow to me, I'm like, oh, please hurry up. You know, but so talking quickly is good. Keep going. But no, I'd like to get him on. I like his style. I like his information.
I think he's all for it. I've had a chat to him in the past about getting a podcast up, or even doing a live stream together. And like I think just the time difference. I mean, like I had to go back to mum and ask her like what time, because they talk to my stepdad's parents back home in England quite a fair bit, and it's like, what time is it there? And it's like, I've got a phone that can tell me that, but for some reason I just don't. Yeah, everything else, yeah, no worries, I'll Google it sort of thing. But it was like, time difference. But yeah, no, he's certainly opened my eyes, and like, yeah, the more like, and it's good to see the perspective, like, you know, even with the females, I'm pretty sure, I think if the person you've had on before me's got their own podcast now as well, so you know, and just getting that different perspective as well, I think is the main thing. And you know, the more you find out, the more it's like, oh, well, that's not me, but I can understand that now. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And, you know, as you're saying, medication works for some. For me, I tried medication. I went off. I tried vitamins. I've, you know, ate better, exercise, everything. I've tried everything. And, you know, it's one of those things. You know, I've been extremely overweight before as well. So there's something that I sort of, you know, and then losing a lot of weight. And it's one of those things, you know, I've sort of been lucky to go through all this sort of stuff to be able to give an opinion of. And, you know, a lot of people would say, well, it's either your opinion or no opinion, but I am fairly flexible in regards to being able to see it from the third person's point of view too. So,
yeah, I mean, I think for me, ADHD is one, or neurodiversity is the topic that's going to change a lot of people's lives, I think, because we're pushing forward to talk so much more. I mean, there's always talk about being, you know, you need to talk about being depressed, you know, always need to talk about depression and things like that, and mental health. But I don't think, I mean, that's been going on for years, but I don't think that got as much traction as neurodiversity has. I mean, in such a short time, neurodiversity, but then again, you know, the knock-on effect of people talking about neurodiversity, even on social media, that's having a knock-on effect. Now people are talking about mental health now a lot more.
Yeah,
you know, so it's a good thing. It does show that talking is good. This is therapy for me. I'm going to keep on doing it. I don't care if I've got 10 followers or 10,000 followers. Actually, I should be happy with 10 followers, to be honest with you, if I get that far. But I like it. It helps me. It helps. I like to think it helps people come on and have a voice as well. It gives people a platform if they want to come on and let me know their opinions and and
I
chat
think
about them.
Ross and George, like on your episodes,
Yeah.
like say it perfectly in regards to like if you just touch that one person, and you can change that life, like that's enough. And like I said, employment services, if you can break that cycle, like, and then as they say, pay it forward. You pay it to one person, they pay it to the next person. Before you know it, the word will be out there a lot quicker than what we think it will be. And I think, as much as AI is scary, I think AI might actually benefit us as neurodivergent as well, because we're pretty cluey when it comes to all this sort of stuff. So.
I hope
and until we get USB ports, they're never going to read our brains anyway.
Well, yeah. True.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no. I mean, it's certainly it's a journey, and like I'd love to touch base down the track and see where we're at.
Yeah.
So, but it's certainly been an awesome experience. I never would have thought that just sitting there in front of a camera, and I used to hate it. And used to hate TikTok, and I still don't really sort of rate it all that much, but just to know what it's done, and for me to get a voice out there, and then all of a sudden have 100 voices come at me going, I go through that too, and it's like, I'm not alone. So, and that's the main point, is that
talking helps you to work that out. I mean, you kind of know you're not alone, because billions of people on this earth, there's got to be at least someone else who feels how you're feeling or going through similar stuff, but you just don't see it and you just don't hear it. But when you do start hearing it and you're talking to people who are going through similar things, it's like yes.
It's funny you say that. I mean, without dragging it too much longer, but I did what was it? I was doing my certificate 4 in training and assessing a couple of years ago as an upgrade. We went through all of this complex information, and at the very end, when we had to like pass in the reports and stuff, they were like, all I want you to do, there were 2 reports that I want you to write. One has language literacy numeracy issues, the other one's got second language English. Something so simple, like it took me 2 weeks to submit that because it just didn't compute, and it was the easiest thing. It was just write it down, but they kept ringing saying, why haven't you submitted it? And I ended up passing it to my partner Mel, and near crying, saying, I just don't get it. I don't get it, sort of thing. And it just wasn't complete. Like, everything else was so complex for this simple thing. And that's exactly as you said it. It's like trying to explain that shut off of your brain. As I said, you can't even explain it. It's just like someone's grabbed your brain and just squeezed it so hard that you just can't think.
It's just nothing there. It should be there, but it's just not there.
It's there, but it's 2 weeks on a Thursday at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's that guy's name too. Yeah, sort of thing. But yeah, as I said, I refer to him as Josh before, but Ross. Like, I really enjoyed Ross's and George's. George's episodes, and Nathan definitely, like when he explained that mathematical thing of being accused of cheating because he couldn't write it down. I get asked that a lot. It was like, how did you come up with this, or with things? And it's like, I don't know. It's it just happened. It's like, no, you got it from somewhere else, and it's like, and that's that. Why do I bother? Yeah. Like, sort of thing. It's
but the more
certainly been.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more it's going to be out there. The more that people are going to understand. The more they're not going to educate themselves. We need to educate them.
No.
We need to educate everybody. We need to educate the psychologists and all that as well, in regards to how it actually feels. So there's a lot of positive that comes out of it, that can come out of it. You're changing where you're going, you're changing your path, you're going with the flow, and you're doing what you feel is the right thing to do, what you feel actually I feel I'm good at this, and you want to carry on with that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that need to know that, because a lot of people, I say, do struggle, don't know where to go with it. There's stigma out there. I've seen a lot of posts about they've told their work and the work hasn't been great and all that, and like, okay, I mean, there's going to be a lot of that out there, but again, it's about the education. You know, we need to educate people and make them understand. You know, if you're going to talk, I can't. Like I said on my last podcast, I just put out there, I can't just go to my work and say I've got ADHD and then crack on, and then expect them to know everything about ADHD and accommodate me if I need accommodation, and you know, and just know it. No, I need to let them know what I struggle with and why. You know, I have to educate them.
And the good point about that is that even identifying that this is who you are is, here's a list of solutions. And if we do get to that point, here's some answers, or here's something to, like, having that information for an employer to be able to look up is also solving the problem for them as well. Because I'm pretty sure they don't know where to look. They just think, oh God, what have I got here? And as we know, there's differences in ADHD, and that's what I do with my employer. It's like, I might do this, but I'm trying to do this. And if I do, you know, there's always an answer to, there's a solution. I think solutions more than problems is the biggest issue at the end of the day. And we know what we are. We know how we react, and being self-aware. And to be honest with you, I know it's the old cliche saying is, if they don't take you on, well, there's a better opportunity out there. So, and someone will.
Yeah. But
you've just got to learn. You've just got to learn that ability to be able to sell yourself to be at your best. And it's daunting, it's scary, and until you get that confidence with ADHD or anything neurodivergent, like, you know, a few of the guys at work have got autism in their IT, and they're awesome. And I'm seeing more personality in them than I think that they've actually realised, and, you know, in their lives sort of thing. Like, I'll go and have a laugh at them and all that sort of stuff. We laugh at each other, but that's the thing. Once you start filming, like, you know, you're getting into that community, it's easier. And you'll find that we'll probably start outnumbering a lot of people too. So, yeah.
Brilliant, mate. So it's been really good chatting with you. You know,
it's been awesome. It's 9 o'clock here in Perth.
So. As typical as it may be for two ADHDers chatting, we've gone off topic a little bit, missed a load of questions, but hey, you know what? It's been a really good conversation.
Definitely. I'm happy to touch base down the track. So
it's been absolutely brilliant. And this is what it's all about. And this is what I bring people on for. You know, just to be yourself at the end of the day, and that's what we want. You know, we want to be ourselves.
That's exactly right. And I think we did cover a lot of the stuff that we were going to be going down anyway. So, you know,
it's
always
cool.
Find a way to get that story in somewhere. So
this is it. But it's been good. It's been great to talk. You know, it's been a great second episode of season 2. Okay, I'll of course be providing links to Nathan's social media if you want to follow and get in touch and ask questions. And Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure.
No worries, Daz. Thanks very much for it.
No worries at all. But until next time, guys, be good, be kind, and remember, you are not alone. Goodbye.